Accessing peace. Existing without violence, with the ability to calmly resolve conflict. Downloading love. An overwhelming, deep, positive affection towards others. Activating liberty. Living your life as you see fit without infringing on the lives of others.
Welcome to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, online at PLL.com. I am your host, Darryl W. Perry, the Liberty Penguin, the Wombat, the uncut cocaine of libertarianism. And today is a very special day. You might not have known that today is a very special day. Today is the birthday of the late, great Dr. Seuss. And I really only found that out because I happened to have been on Twitter and saw that Dr. Seuss was trending. And then I clicked, yeah, Dr. Seuss, born March 2nd, 1904. And of course, he's been dead for quite a while, having passed away in 1991. But there's a big, huge, long list of quotes that he has said or things that he has written in books. One of them fits with this show. It says, sometimes the questions are complicated and the answers are simple. How does that fit in? Well, because today is a Friday, and it's the day that I answer your questions. See how I tied that all in? Dr. Seuss's birthday, he said something about questions, I answer them, but sometimes I wind up making the answers very, very complicated and diverging away from the questions a good bit, and that's what I'm going to do today. Now, the one question that came in technically wasn't Ask Me Anything, but the person said that they needed an answer right away, and I gave them the answer. The answer, or rather the question, and forgive me for not having the exact wording, but the question was something about a contract for, I believe it was garbage disposal, to where the company apparently had gone out of business and said, yeah, we don't have to refund you any money because, see, you prepaid for services, which means we're billing you now, you pay for 3 months, and oops, we're going out of business, we don't have to give you any money back. So the question was, is this legal? And my understanding of contracts is that, yeah, sadly, if you prepay for a service and then the company or the person does not necessarily provide you the service, they can keep the money if they've written it into some kind of user agreement as such. Now, I realize that's a very simple answer, and that's one of those things that kind of fits in. Sometimes the questions are complicated, but the answers are simple. But let's talk about a different kind of contract, shall we? Because we live in this digital age to where a lot of people are talking about smart contracts. We just need to put everything on a blockchain and then smart contracts, and then nobody will ever make bad decisions because smart contracts and smart contract make sure that something enforced by blockchain drones, something smart contract. But the problem with smart contracts, just like the problems with a lot of terms of service and licensing agreements, is that the users don't necessarily read everything that's in the terms of service. They don't necessarily read every word of the smart contract, and you don't necessarily get to negotiate the terms of the contract. That's how most contracts are, right? Is you have one party saying, this is the contract. Oh, no. You don't get to alter the contract, but we can alter the contract. Think of how many times you've ever received an email from, say, eBay or Hulu or PayPal or some other company that you wind up using for certain things. And that email says, our terms of service have changed. Well, you don't get to decide, whether or not you like the changes. You don't get to offer modifications because it's a one-sided deal. It's kind of like, what's the quote from the Star Wars? I've changed the agreement, pray I don't change it any further. That's how a lot of contracts work. But there are some people that live in this fantasy world to where they think that if contracts are just put onto a blockchain, that somehow, that solves all of the problems. I've got a couple of articles here about some of the problems with smart contracts. The first comes from Business Insider. Headline, Smart Contracts Pose Enforceability Issues. Yeah, that's right. There might be some enforceability issues on smart contracts. The article here begins, a new white paper by blockchain consortium R3 and global law firm Norton Rose Fulbright explores whether blockchain-based smart contracts are legally binding under current legislation in different countries. Now, let me pause here to say that one reason that I got into the crypto sphere is to sort of, bypass whether things are necessarily quote-unquote legal as recognized by some governing body because, well, let's look at a list of things that are illegal. Selling lemonade without a business license. Oh, you think I'm joking? Just do a Google search for lemonade stand shut down, and you will see a lot of stories of cops going and shutting down lemonade stands being run by 9, 10, 11-year-olds. Yes, operating a lemonade stand without a business license, illegal. Possessing certain flowers without a medical recommendation from a doctor. Can't call it a prescription because the DEA says that cannabis has no medicinal use, and that, well, there are other flowers that are just outright prohibited for various reasons, but cannabis probably the one that most people wind up getting in trouble for. Yeah, that's illegal. It's a plant that has some medicinal benefits, but again, the DEA and the U.S. government says, nope, no benefits whatsoever. Yeah, that's illegal. Let's keep talking about that here in a moment on Peace, Love, and Liberty Radio.
You can support FPP Radio by shopping online. Whether you're looking for precious metals, bitcoins, or books, you'll find that and more at shop.fppradio.com. Every purchase you make from one of my affiliates, like Namecheap, Spendabit, and Amazon at shop.fppradio.com helps fund FPP Radio. Or you can shop directly from FPP with Bitcoin in the Bitcoin store. That's shop.fppradio.com. The Doublespeak Dictionary by Leslie Starr O'Hara satirizes the marked difference between the ideal of we the people and the reality of we the elite, while offering an insightful glimpse into the clockworks of the totalitarian mind. Ever irreverent but never irrelevant, the Doublespeak Dictionary serves as a subversive and humorous but timely reminder that the emperor has no clothes. The Doublespeak Dictionary is available from Amazon.com and all major bookstores.
You're listening to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio with Darryl W. Perry. Online at fppradio.com.
Welcome back to Peace, Love, and Liberty Radio. Online at fppradio.com. We'll get back into the discussion about various things that are legal, whether smart contracts are legal. I say they're not even good. But again, we'll get back into the discussion. But first, I want to tell you about something that is a good idea. And that is protecting your wealth. And what better way to do that than precious metals? That's right. Precious metals. We're talking gold, silver, platinum, palladium. And what better place to get your precious metals than Roberts & Roberts Brokerage? They've been around since 1977 as a trusted source for not only buying, but also selling, meaning that you want to buy some precious metals, Robertson Roberts Brokerage can help. You want to sell some precious metals, say you've got some gold, some silver, some platinum, some palladium that you need to get rid of, and you need cash. They can help you out. Again, they've been in business since 1977, and they are a crypto-preferred business, meaning they want your cryptocurrencies. And to show that they're crypto-preferred, they have permanently removed the minimum purchase for all orders paid in digital currency. So pick up a phone, call Robertson Roberts Brokerage today for knowledgeable advice on buying and selling precious metals and a forward-thinking approach to new technologies. 800-874-9760. That's 800-874-9760. Or online at rrbi.co. So, jumping back into the tangent that we were on from the article that we were on to answer the question about contracts. And yes, I sort of fell into the Dr. Seuss thing here that the question is complicated, but the answer is simple. But now I'm making the answer more complicated because otherwise it would be a very short show. And I've got time to fill. So again, the question was about whether or not a company that charges you for prepayment of services can wind up not giving you a refund when they go out of business and don't provide all of the services that you've paid for. And again, it all depends on the wording of the contract. Now, there are some people that think, well, we just put it on a blockchain and then we don't have these problems. But no, you would still have the problems depending on the wording of the contract. But there's an article from Business Insider talking about the enforceability issues, and they begin by saying they might not even be legally binding under current laws or legislation pending in different countries. And then the tangent is that, well, the entire reason that I and other libertarians and voluntarists and anarchists got involved in cryptocurrency is to bypass state regulations, to bypass government enforcement of what is money, who can buy what. And again, just a couple of the things that are illegal. Running a lemonade stand without a government permit. Possession of certain flowers. Let's see, what are some other things? Having an open container of alcohol in public. Now, let me explain how ridiculous the open container in public thing can be. In the town where I live, and technically it's a city, but in the town where I live, there are some restaurants that have sidewalk seating. Now, the sidewalk seating is not flush up against the building. It's on the other side of the sidewalk, so it's closer to the road than to the building. These restaurants serve alcohol. If you are sitting at the table drinking your beer or your glass of wine or whatever alcohol you have purchased, as long as you are sitting at the table, you're fine. You stand up from the table and take a drink. Now you are in possession of an open container and you can be cited for such. You want to go inside the restaurant from the patio seating and you have a glass of beer or a glass of wine, or you've got a bottle or a can, you can't. You are prohibited from carrying that across the sidewalk into the restaurant. You must flag over a waitress. The waitress places that on the tray, and then somehow it's magically no longer an open container. You get inside, and then you can grab your drink again. That's how ridiculous open container laws are where I live. But again, who's the victim? There, we're talking about things that have no victim, that are illegal. And yes, I realize that was a long tangent about the statement that smart contracts might not be legally binding, but that's not the only problem. Continuing on, smart contracts they explain here, are blockchain-based contracts that execute automatically and immediately when certain conditions coded into the contract are met. And again, much like zero tolerance, to where, little Timmy picked up the letter L and was playing cops and robbers on the playground and using the letter L as a gun, well, little Timmy violated the school's weapons policy, and now little Timmy gets expelled. Just like how zero tolerance means zero common sense, zero logic, same thing with smart contracts. The article here continues, again, talking about a white paper by Blockchain Consortium R3 and law firm Norton Rose Fulbright. They say that their paper's findings show there are many possible smart contract, and I hate when things just pop up in the middle of the screen, and I made that go away. There are many possible smart contract models. The study identifies 2 smart contract concepts on either end of the spectrum. The first encodes an entire natural language contract in digital form. The other encodes only the active parts of a contract that depend on certain conditions being met, for example, payment. In between, there's a split contract written in natural language, but with various data-driven elements that are administered by smart contracts. These split contracts are simpler to create, according to the report, and could be used for financial services firms to achieve greater standardization in data formats. So, basically, they're just saying there are many different ways you can do a smart contract. And I agree, there are many different ways that you can do a smart contract. I don't think any of them are good, and I would advise against anyone participating in smart contracts because, well, you're removing common sense. Stay tuned. There's more here on Peace, Love, Liberty Radio.
Are you sick of government lackeys who say you didn't build that? Are you tired of elitists who think you need a government permission slip for everything? Everything you do is an A to B conversation, and the government should see their way out of it. Create true free markets by adopting the BIPCOT No Government License. The BIPCOT No Gov license allows use or modification of any product, service, or software except by governments or government agents. Go to BIPCOT.org. That's Bravo, India, Papa, Charlie, Oscar, Tango.org.
In 1999, Darryl W. Perry began a search for traditional values, which led him down a path to the ideas of liberty. He tells the story in A Rebel's Journey, My Path to Liberty. Of the book, Dr. Brian Sovereign says, sometimes it's funny, and sometimes I think it's crazy, but it's always authentic. Find A Rebel's Journey, My Path to Liberty by Darryl W. Perry on Facebook, ask for A Rebel's Journey wherever books are sold, or visit arebelsjourney.com.
This is Brian McQuaid from the Resist the Empire podcast, and you're listening to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio with Darryl W. Perry.
Welcome back to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio. Continuing on with the article, they say smart contracts underlying technology presents enforceability issues. This is particularly true where contracts are built on permissionless blockchains, which do not allow for a central controlling authority. Since the point of such a blockchain is to decentralize authority, they might not provision for an arbiter to resolve any disputes that arise over a contract that is executed automatically. This is likely why many financial firms considering smart contracts are working on permissioned blockchains. Now, this is an issue that I have not even thought of. But, you know, they do raise an interesting point here of if you don't really know who you're signing the smart contract with, well, first off, you shouldn't sign a contract if you don't know who you're signing the contract with. But secondly, yeah, it does raise that issue of arbitration when there are disputes with smart contracts. But then there's also, issues about arbitration on paper contracts or, other sorts of things that aren't necessarily paper contracts, such as an end user licensing agreement. You know, that thing when you signed up for Facebook and you clicked the box that said, I agree that I have read the terms of service and agree to abide by them. even though chances are you didn't actually read the terms of service for Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or Gmail or any of the other social media sites that you might be on. So there are things in there that you don't really know. But the claim by some people is that, everything will just be solved. Well, no, everybody's going to have to be a lawyer and learn coding, and it's going to make things much more complicated. The article here continues. Smart contracts should embed dispute resolution mechanisms to reduce friction. I agree. Jumping down here, they say, however, it is worth bearing in mind that major regulations in the EU and UK are already actively exploring blockchain more generally, and may well be considering the implications of smart contracts under this umbrella. Blockchain technology, which is best known for powering Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, is gaining steam among finance firms because of its potential to streamline processes and increase efficiency. The technology could cut cost by up to $20 billion annually by 2022. Now, that is something I've never actually heard talked about, that blockchain technology and cryptocurrencies could wind up cutting cost. And this number of $20 billion, that comes from a financial institution called Santander. I'm not sure how widespread they are, but I do know that they have some branches here in New Hampshire. Again, there's more to this article. I will post the link in the show notes, but let's jump over to another article from CoinDesk about some misconceptions, maybe, about smart contracts and why so many smart contract use cases are simply impossible. The article begins, and this written by a developer. He says, as the developer of a popular blockchain platform, I sometimes get asked whether Ethereum-like smart contracts on the multi-chain roadmap, or rather, if they are on the multi-chain roadmap. The answer I always give is no, or at least not yet. But in the hyper-filled world of blockchains, smart contracts are all the rage. So why ever not? Well, the problem is, while we now know of 3 strong use cases for permissioned Bitcoin-style blockchains, provenance, company record-keeping, and lightweight finance, we've yet to find the equivalent for Ethereum-based smart contracts. It's not that people don't understand what they want smart contracts to do. Rather, it's that so many of these ideas are simply impossible. When smart people hear the term smart contracts, their imaginations tend to run wild. They conjure up dreams of autonomous, intelligent software going off into the world, taking data along the ride. Unfortunately, the reality is more mundane. A smart contract is a piece of code stored on a blockchain, triggered by blockchain transactions, and which reads and writes data in that blockchain's database. Smart contract is just a fancy name for code that runs on a blockchain and interacts with that blockchain's state. Jumping down where he is giving basically an introduction to smart contracts, he says, the misunderstanding of the fundamental properties of code which live in a database and runs in a decentralized way. Number 1, contacting external services. Often, the first use case proposed in a smart contract that changes is behavior in response to some external event. For example, an agricultural insurance policy which pays out conditionally based on the quantity of rainfall in a given month. He says that's just not possible, but he says so using a lot of words. Number 2, enforcing on-chain payments. Here's another proposal that we tend to hear a lot, using a smart contract to automate the payment of coupons for a so-called smart bond. The idea is that the smart contract code to automatically initiate the payments at the appropriate times, avoiding manual processes and guaranteeing that the issuer cannot default. Of course, in order for this to work, the funds used to make the payment must live inside the blockchain as well. Otherwise, a smart contract could not possibly guarantee the payment. Recall that the blockchain is a database, in this case a financial ledger containing the issued bond and some cash. There's more. Stay tuned to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio.
Cell 411 is a free app for Android and iOS that replaces government-controlled 911. Cell 411 allows you to preset a group of friends or private organizations to show up in any emergency. Cell 411 is a nightmare for the state because it proves their so-called services aren't needed. Cell 411 has had thousands of installs, and of course it's covered by the BIPCOT no government license. Cell 411 because your friends won't shoot you when you're in trouble. Without the government, who would build the emergency services? You and Cell 411. Get it today at getcell411.com. That's getcell411.com.
When you hear the word lobbyist, you probably think about greedy corporations, but not all lobbyists are the same. Some are fighting for the freedoms you hold dear. Liberty Lobby LLC is doing just that in New Hampshire, working hard to represent you, not some special interest group. You can help by going to libertylobby.info, where your contribution will give us the tools we need to ensure that your voice is heard. Visit libertylobby.info today to find out more.
You're listening to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio with Darryl W. Perry, online at fppradio.com.
Welcome back to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, online at fppradio.com. I am your host, Darryl W. Perry, the Liberty Penguin, the Wombat, the uncut cocaine of libertarianism. And I know I spent the better part of the show talking about how horrible certain aspects of cryptocurrency are, but it's not the currencies that are bad. It's the things people are wanting to do with them, and some people want to do things other than currency with cryptocurrency, specifically those smart contract things. But what if there was a better cryptocurrency, one that actually focused on users and usability? Let's talk about Zencash. Zencash is the world's first private, distributed, and reliable platform for communications, transactions, and publishing. Zencash has the ability to use both transparent and shielded transactions. Shielded transactions, of course, using zero-knowledge proofs, and that means that only the sender and the receiver know what are in those transactions. Zencash features global governance with inclusive decision-making, reliable funding for continuous improvements, and their documentation and wallets are available in many different languages, not just English, and they're also available on many different platforms: Linux, Mac, Windows, and Android devices. Learn more at zensystem.io. That's zensystem.io. Let's jump back into the article here from CoinDesk and talk about the third thing that is a misconception about what smart contracts can do. Some people think that you can hide confidential data. The author says, as I've written about previously, the biggest challenge in deploying blockchains is the radical transparency they provide. For example, if 10 banks set up a blockchain together and 2 conduct a bilateral transaction, this will immediately be visible to the other 8. While there are various strategies for mitigating this problem, none beat the simplicity and efficiency of a centralized database in which a trusted administrator has full control over who can see what. Some people think that a smart contract can solve this problem. They start with the fact that each smart contract contains its own miniature database over which it has full control. All read and write operations on the database are mediated by the contract's code, making it impossible for one contract to read another contract's data directly. This tight coupling between data and code is called encapsulation and is the foundation of the popular object-oriented programming paradigm. So if one smart contract can't access another's database, have we solved the problem? No, we have not. There's more in that article. Link will be in the show notes. And don't forget, every Friday I answer your questions. Send those over ama.fppradio.com.
The podcasts of FPP Radio are licensed under Copy Heart. We believe that copying is a form of flattery and do not abide by the copyright laws. Those laws serve to restrict the flow of ideas which no one can really own. Copying is an act of love. love is not subject to law. If you enjoy the show, consider joining the Fans program and get perks like ad-free versions of Peace, Love, Liberty Radio and FPP Radio News, and also get a copy of the monthly newspaper FPP News. To learn more or to join the Fans program, visit fans.fppradio.com.